Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. I finally got that second Iron Man video out, and now working on the third one. There's a handful of video projects that I have had in the back that I've been waiting to get done that I really should jump on while I'm actually cranking some stuff out, you know what I mean? We'll see what I have out this week. I'm planning on the raid retrospective for Alexander. I'd like to do another criticism video, and then I'd actually like to work on the Platinum series again. 10-2 was the next video, and I actually already had a lot of it written out, so it's a lot of just compiling the footage, which I have all of it already. And that would be good, and then the Iron Man probably the week after, or even the week after that. Like I said, the Iron Man videos are not meant to be super frequent. They're just not meant to be as long of a wait as the first one was. So I'd like to try to get that time down if I can, but we'll see, because you know, I didn't want what it was in the first place. So we'll see what actually ends up happening when I'm like got my mind to it. Ivy, why are you zooming around first thing in the morning? This video is going to have the Magic Spoon sponsor ad. If you've been following my channel for a while, you're probably used to it, but I'll let the ad speak for itself. And then the Q&A itself is actually going to begin. So with that in mind, also thanks to the patrons for supporting the channel. Nobody has to support. All of my content is available for free, but joining the channel via membership, which will get you a little chocobo next to your name and some emotes, or supporting the Patreon are great ways to show support if you wanted to. But if not, just enjoy the videos, ask your questions for the following weeks, and enjoy whatever other videos I put out during the week. But with that, onto the Magic Spoon ad, and then onto the Q&A. But before we get started, this video has a sponsor, Magic Spoon. They make high-protein cereal and snack products that anyone can enjoy for any diet. Every month I grab some cereal and some treat bars and use them to mix up my high-protein snacking. I have a hard time not snacking. I've just always been that way. So having something like Magic Spoon on hand, whether it's just grabbing a handful of cereal or grabbing a treat bar out of the cabinet, is perfect. The treat bars are especially super addicting. Seriously, it's hard for me to not eat them all before recording these ads for my channel, especially the double chocolate. That's my favorite. So if you'd like to try Magic Spoon while also supporting the channel, then click the link below to get some today. Build your own custom box of products with tons of available flavors. Definitely recommend the maple waffle if you're getting some cereal to match your daily needs. Best of all, use my link and discount code Mr. Happy to get $5 off your box. You can also buy it at your local grocery store or even on Amazon if that's more convenient for you. And if you don't like it, Magic Spoon has a 100% happiness guarantee. Let them know and they'll refund you, no questions asked. So click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen and use code Mr. Happy to get $5 off, or go to magicspoon.com/Mr. Happy to save $5 on your order. It even works in Canada and the UK. Thanks again to Magic Spoon for sponsoring, and on with the video. First question, hashtag Mondays with WM Happy with Mrhappy. I feel like there's a lot on purpose there. Howdy, Mr. Happy. Hope you're doing great. You too. With the new variant on the way, it got me thinking about the main three city-states. Some of Old Odds history got a great look at Syl D. We had a taste of more of Limsa's story with the 50 to 60 dungeons featured like Hullbreaker Isle, Normanhard, which got me hoping about getting more stories featuring Gridania and the Shroud. Like, I mean, one of the big things with Gridania is Palace of the Dead, the entire civilization under there. But I will say that's not that story-centric. We kind of already knew somewhat about Glamour. And we didn't really get a whole lot from Palace of the Dead in particular. There's a lot of still question marks about Palace of the Dead and how it kind of like works fundamentally, and so it's not entirely understood. I also noticed this is cut off on the side. Oh, I think that's because that's not it. Don't worry, we're gonna fix it live. I don't know why it's actually off, babe. Oh, there we go. That's weird. Either way, it's mostly fixed now, which I'd hope the next variant could have been about. I mean, yeah, I mean, they can, but there's nothing that says they specifically need to be handling the city-states or anything. That's not like a core functional goal of what they're doing with them. Do you think there's more? I mean, honestly, it seems like Glamour is really the one big thing to look at, and diving deeper into that, because Palace of the Dead just kind of tells us it's Glamour, and we have some idea of what the purpose of the palace is, thanks to just some fleeting text regarding, what's his name, Nabeth Abdelord. But there's probably a lot else that can be uncovered there. Also, Snuggle with the cats. What's your favorite one? Snuggle Wolf. Well, Ivy is the cat I'm closest to because she's the cat. Oh, where are you going, Ivy? I thought you were going to jump up onto the bed when I did that. And she likes to snuggle the most. She's also the most like just plant herself and snuggle, but that also makes her difficult to snuggle with at the same time because she you know, she gets all up in my grill, and then I have nowhere to move. So, you know, she's trapping me there. So she kind of wins by default. Oh my god, that's a lot of text. We'll see how we do it this one. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Haps. Hope your day's going well. Want to say, before my question, I had loads of fun tanking for you on the Sprouts and World of Darkness and Susano. Oh, yeah, you were part of that? Yeah, that was a good time. It was really nice to not just be blasting through World of Darkness. Dude, mid-item level World of Darkness, I was really afraid we weren't going to make it for a brief moment because I know most people do not know how that works. To my first question, a lot of people have been suggesting combat animations as rewards. There's actually a comment under this very video suggesting that. What do you think the hurdles would be for adding duplicate legacy skills? Yeah, I've wanted at least the ability to toggle, like for example, we have Shadow Bite and Wide Volley on Bard. I would love to just be able to toggle using the Wide Volley animation, and that's exactly the example that you actually gave here. So I see we're on the same bout. They're not made for that, so it would have to be something programmed, but how difficult it would be, I mean, it would just take effort. I don't know that it would necessarily be difficult. That the things would have to be really screwed up for something that's already built into the job and already flagged across the job as like two core functions of it to make them not interchangeable. I'd assume that they haven't programmed the individual potencies to the animations, which would be the only problem, but they'd have to spend some time decoupling that, and then it would probably be fine. I mean, I want them to do stuff like that. It's just a question of will they, and I don't think it's a priority. I think it could be cool, but I don't think it's a priority, personally, as much as I would very much like to see it. And then for the second question here, what's your most copium-infused wish? I try to avoid copium. Like, I throw out the Puppet Master thing, like Puppet Master next Fizz ranged, even though realistically it's probably something with, like, dual hand crossbows or a giant crossbow or something like that, or maybe both. Like Viper, you know, two separate swords, combine them together. You know, I know the limit break, or the range limit break is already two giant one-handed crossbows, but an actual job that has it in the first place. I know some people are hoping for more like a proper rifle instead of a handgun or something in that regards. But I whatever it is, I mean, Puppet Master is just my cope because I can make it work for Fizz range. I made a whole video about it, and I could totally make it work again. They just got to invite me to the office, and I'll take care of the rest. Don't worry, I got it. You guys got a lot of text this week. Hashtag Happies with Mr. Monday. Hi, and also hello. I'm going to try to be as quick as possible. I mean, I guess it's doable here. Watch your video on inventory space. Has some problems. Our coding base. Others are storage limit based on the service. Let me think about what thinks about storage limit that we don't need. First thing that came to mind was soul crystals. How we already have 25 in game and how they're currently 25 space. Yeah, they effectively expand it. They expand the armory chest for the soul crystals when they add new soul crystals, which you're right in effect forces them to use inventory space. Although we don't actually know how the armory chest, how the soul crystal tab is programmed. It could be programmed differently, but I'm not assuming that it is. And Beastmaster, does Beastmaster have a soul crystal? Yeah, it probably has a soul crystal. It has that like faux one. If so, would that add up for you? Yeah, if they got rid of it, in theory, like it has to be repurposed, but it also would specifically add 25 armory chest spaces. And while that's not that big a deal, it's also not nothing, I suppose. Yeah, it's certainly a possibility for them to do that. But it really, again, it's a lot of stuff we don't know and trying to guess about things we don't know. And that's always the difficulty of it. So unless they address it directly, it's hard to say exactly what would be accomplished or how accomplishable it actually is. Because we don't know how soul crystals are tied into the other programming parts of the game. And if their removal would have other problems to separate them from the existing system, since they are the flag that determines job acquisition or job equipping. Also, we do not need that many key item slots. You know, it's funny. It is possible to fill it. However, I believe that the odds of anyone ever accidentally filling it are so low that you could limit it to probably 15 slots. And then if somebody is in a situation where they filled it, one of two things I feel like could be done. One would be to just put it in the regular inventory until, you know, just give it a flag where it can be put in key items, but allow it to exist in the normal inventory. Or they just tell you your key items are full, you know, please finish a quest or remove a key item that's in there. It is possible to fill it, but you would have to have like all the quests that have key items like at the same time. And that's usually the first place people go and they think, other than the soul crystals, this is the other place people usually go when they're trying to think of how to make additional space. So you're pretty much on point with that one. That's up to them, though. I mean, people have asked this, suggested this, and it's just a question of will they, won't they, etc., etc. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey there. Hi. With most of the restrictions on Glames being lifted in 7.4, do you think this is a precursor for 14 to create less outfits? No. They know what people want. They are not going to make less outfits. This is literally in reply to two things. One, people have literally been asking for it for 10 years. Since the Glame system was introduced, it has been a #1 request. And they stood firm against it because they wanted to maintain job identity. However, by their own admission, it doesn't really make sense anymore because you can glam things like bikinis, or like you could be in like a PvP set or something like that. And all of a sudden, it literally doesn't matter, like the whole job identity thing. Like you could be in the PvP set as a white mage. It's a heavy armor set. Like most of them are these like really edgy heavy armor sets until they started doing the more modern sets. But even then, a tank in that modern set doesn't look like a tank. So effectively, it was a little bit of a concession there. Number two, after they had done the whole anti-Mare thing and that whole debacle took place and like blew over, they kind of were forced, if we're gonna like restrict the players that were trying to get around the restrictions, then we kind of should lift the restrictions ourselves to appease those players as well. So that's really the main thing. It doesn't have anything to do with less armor sets. I will say this though, current maiming, fending, aiming, healing, a lot of melees don't want there to be 3 melee sets anymore. Just from a sheer functionality standpoint, it makes swapping between the role harder than every other role. It makes actually playing more than one melee. Like if you're going to play a striking melee, then you're only playing, you know, monk and samurai. But if you wanted to swap to dragoon, none of your gear, your left side gear is going to work. So it's just a weird place because we don't want them to necessarily make less armor sets, although they usually only make like 4 or 5 and then, you know, split a couple of them and then recolor them. So I wouldn't even say, yeah, maiming, fending, aiming, healing, they're not really unique in design. They usually do 4, maybe 5 designs and then split it across the remaining ones. Like, you know, striking and scouting might be the same set, but like color swapped, and aiming and scouting might be the same set, but color swapped. And then striking and maiming might be the same set, but color swapped. And then healing and casting are almost always the same set, but color swapped, you know, so they don't even really do that anyway. So they can't even really reduce the number of sets. But no, this isn't any precursor to that. This is a response to a long-term feedback, as well as what has just happened recently with the whole, you know, banning the most major cosmetic tool that allowed people to mod their characters. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi, Happy. Hi. In this episode, you talked a lot about gear and gearing. Since there will be a 3-week cap between... Well, actually a 4-week cap. So the morning of Savage's release, we get access to the Tome weekly cap 2 hours before Savage. So we've been getting 2 weeks of Tomes for a while. It's going to go up to 4. And we know that the fights have not been rescaled. And yes, I do think crafted gear will be much lower in demand and be worth much less. If you're planning on making Gil... on crafted gear this patch, you really got to hope for the early whales, because the value is going to be significantly lower. There's no reason really for any raider to be picking up that gear unless they want it for the extreme trial week 1. They're going to be calculating out what normal mode piece is not, because they've got 3 weeks of normal mode now as well. Like they might just take a normal mode piece with better itemization for less melts. They're going to have 1,800 tomes. You know, one person in a static's going to save 500 for the weapon from the second and third fight combined, so you can get that for week 1. But everyone else is going to have 1,800 tomes to spend, and they're probably going to pick up like body and legs, or like, you know, left side bis. The accessories will probably still be okay. I feel like the normal mode accessories are really the thing that people are going to be looking at there. But bottom line is, yeah, crafted gear is not going to be worth nearly as much. So... I just wouldn't expect to make as much. I wouldn't put as much effort in, personally, to crafting this tier. At least not for gear. Consumables still definitely going to be worth it. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, hi. Was wondering if you'll check out Where Winds Meet. Yeah, I was considering it. Probably will. I don't have a whole lot going on in like 14 or anything else right now. And then Ion 2 is like like a couple of days after that. So I'll probably just mess around a little bit in the middle of the month. Like, why not, right? You know, just might as well have a little bit of a cheeky peek as far as I'm concerned. I wasn't really drawn to it at first. From my understanding, it's like an action RPG, but like there's like some MMO aspects to it. Like, I mean, that's kind of sounds like how people defined Genshin before they understood that it was really single player with the occasional multiplayer. So I'm not really sure if I'll be super into it, but whatever, I'll take a peek. What's the worst that can happen, right? Hashtag, it's a new day with Mr. Happy. That's inspirational. Hello, hi, hope things are going well. Looking forward to more Iron Man videos. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the second one. Simple question, the male Elzen in the 7.4 artwork, do you think he is the heavyweight champion, the president, or both? I think both is actually very likely. Obviously, the president holding the highest championship is very wrestling coded, but I'm still holding on to belief that Mrhappy is actually the president, as the commentator being president owner is wrestling coded. So which camp are you in? So he's either, I think, here. Okay, so here's actually what I think. I think the red-haired woman is the first opponent. I think the second boss is a tag team match against two brothers. And then the third one is the Elzen, and then the fourth one is the president. I think that's going to be the order of the fights themselves. Like, I think we need to clear out and actually get to the top of the heavyweight champion, and I think that's going to happen on the third fight and not the fourth fight. And then the president is going to try to stop us from actually deleting. Like, even though he promised that we would be allowed to remove all of the souls, let's be honest, I don't think they really want the Arcadian to shut down. Assuming, again, that this isn't one giant show and that that's like, you know, maybe something that was actually wanted all along. Who knows? But I think that the president, whether it be Mrhappy or otherwise, is going to be the fight after the Elzen. And the Elzen is just the current, like, heavyweight champion. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Happy. Hi. Hope things are well. You too. If you had to rank first time clear difficulty for all the ultimates in the modern day, how would you... Top is at the top. It's pretty much in the order of difficulty. It's like top DSR, Fruity, Ukab, Uwu. I think even Ukab, some people might take longer to clear than T. I think that T's first 6-7 minutes plus wormhole is more generally threatening. I think most people are pretty quick to get past the first two phases of UCOB, and it really just becomes about like Heaven's Fall and Octet. Heaven's Fall, Octet, and Ad Phase. Transition into the final phase. And then, of course, final phase jitters. But the fact that it's still a 19-minute issue. Actually, I don't even know it's like 19 minutes anymore. It gets cleared through pretty quick. But I think that's a pretty safe estimate of the order. And I think 7.5, I don't think they'll ever do anything top-esque again. I think top will be the hardest ultimate ever, forever. And that's also me just coping so I don't ever have to experience something like that on content again. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hiya, Haps. Hi. Hope your day is going well. It is. It's still early, but, it's going good. Hard question for you. Sure about that? You have to pick your favorite OST tracks from each mainline Final Fantasy. I mean, honestly, that's not even a hard question. That's just too much information for me to go through right now because I've played. I mean, that's a lot. Few quick ones off my head. Battle with Big Bridge, Final Fantasy V. What's it called? So the problem is also remembering the names of the themes. Like Final Fantasies 1 and 2, I don't really have like standout tracks that like I'm like, oh my god, yes, that. But then Final Fantasy 3, you have the theme that's used in 14, the wind something. Final Fantasy 4 is going to be Zero Miss's theme. Final Fantasy 5, Battle at Big Bridge. Final Fantasy 6 is going to be the, what are they called? The Atma Weapons / what is it called theme? Warring Triad theme. 7 is actually, probably much people's surprise, probably the bombing mission track is actually one of my favorites. 8 is Man with the Machine Gun. 9 is, I don't know, dude. I'm not a huge fan of 9. I could probably just take something really easy and just go with Kuja's boss theme. 10 is 10 is actually pretty hard. I actually like a lot of tracks there, so I don't know. 11, I don't know. There's too many tracks. The problem is I would actually need to like go through and listen and properly judge them. Doing them off the top of my head is going to mean I forget songs, and so it's not even a hard question from the sense that I probably couldn't pick one, but like doing it on the spot is not great. So that's just a few of them, I think, and that should be good for now. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Greetings and salutations. An extra hello for anyone who forgets. Hi. 2 unrelated questions. First question, given the success of the Tactics remaster, do you think Square Enix will finally announce a proper next-gen sequel? No, I think we'll just get Chrono Trigger. HD 2D. I think that's the next thing that is going to be big. I don't think a sequel to Tactics is ever happening. Also, given the success, I don't actually know the success. Hold on, let me pull up my phone. I mean, I know the people who have, most people who have played it like it, but I don't know that they've, Tactics, Ivalice, Chronicles, sales. It had 21,000 concurrent. One day on the market in September. I mean, there's a tiny bit of information, but I don't think there's like actual sales numbers for anything. So I don't think we can properly even judge it. We do know that that entire department, though, is doing quite well. Their HD games department, which it's a part of, so we can assume that it was moderately successful. Second question, slightly long-winded. What are your thoughts on regarding final bosses we will likely see in 7.5? Oh, I think it's Promethea. It's literally... Oh, you mean all the gods? Yeah, so Fenrir is actually big on my list. I don't think Bahamut. Absolute Virtue, definitely not. They're not... And definitely not Pandemonium Warden either. Promethea is... Yeah, Promethea... And I actually think Fenrir is one of them. I think Promethean Vasal's final boss against the 3 Emptiness... The 3 Emptiness bosses will be one. I think Fenrir is possible. They may even do a few of the celestial or terrestrial avatars, as those are incredibly impactful fights. Fenrir would... honestly, Carbuncle would make more sense, because Carbuncle actively summons all the other avatars, other than, like, Fenrir and Diabolos in them. So, Carbuncle's actually a possibility. But I do think a summon, Fenrir or Carbuncle, Promethea is a shoo-in. I do have the random cope that maybe Altana will somehow play a role in the final fight. I think Altana is actually going to be the one who sent What's-His-Face through to our world. And we're going to find... Yeah, I think she's going to play a role, but she probably won't be a boss. But definitely not Bahamut and definitely not Absolute Virtue. I think that the Promethean boss is one of the summons, Promethea himself. And then you might see... It's a question of if they'll do any treasures or beyond bosses, because the Walk of Echoes itself is something that's already been referenced in the story, and we know it's a part of the story. I don't think Lilith is going to play any role in that, but I mean, they could do something from Wings of the Goddess, so that's a big question. But yeah, I mean, it's just guessing anyway at this point. I didn't guess like any of the bosses from the last one. Well, Omega and Ultima, I was upset at myself for not guessing. Kieran, I think I've like was in the back of my head, but I didn't really assume. And then, you know, I think the brothers was an easy guess. So I think the easy guess here is just Promethea. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Haps. Hi. Hope we're all doing well. Me too. Do you think that with the 2-week delay of Savage, that the further 7.4x content will also be delayed? No. I think it wouldn't be unreasonable to think that, but I think that the 2-week delay in that is going to mean that 3 weeks later is another piece of content, and then another 4 to 5, and then 4 weeks after that. So I think by the 9-week mark, all the content that would usually be out of the 9-week mark will be there, but we will probably no, that's it. That's the end of the thought process. Yeah. Last year we had 8 weeks for Occult and Fork Tower release, Split Raiders. Yeah, it's 8 to 9 weeks every time. And I think that it's going to be the same deal. I think it's going to be 3 weeks later. I think it's going to be the 5-week mark for Point X1, and then the 9-week mark, which is the very normal point for the Point X5. That's what I think. Did I say 3-week delay in the last one? I meant like it's a 3-week wait. Now I'm questioning how I actually answered that last question. No, I don't think any of the content nor 7.5 will be delayed. I just need to go back and clarify that. I think it'll all be on schedule. Just that'll be the only thing that's pushed back and nothing else. Hashtag Monday with a guy we call Happy. That's me. Hi, Hap. Hi. After the announcement of Mystic Knight as a phantom job, do you think there's a higher chance we will have it as a real job? If any chance, we'll have it as a real job, not a higher chance. Always love the concept of melee. I mean, I'm not going to say no, but, you know, there's Rune Knight, Mystic Knight. Like, there's a few different names for it. If anything, they would just use a different name if they wanted to avoid, like, an overlap there. But I don't think that really matters at all to them, so I don't think there's any more or less chance. It's on my short list for tanks in particular, but not as a DPS, so I don't think there's any indication. You can't look at this and be like, oh, this means one thing. There's no correlation. There's no correlation or causation. It's just they're pulling Final Fantasy V jobs. And that's all there is to it. You know, there's not really a thought process beyond that. Possibility is if they want to, it will. Like, it's the same possibility of any other job being put into the game. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy and Miss Spofy. Well, she's not here right now. I'm the one answering the questions. Greetings, Haps. Hi, how you doing? I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. Wanted to ask, how are you finding motivation focus? Just do all the grinds in the game and have fun. I personally hate the grind aspect, but want to like it. I mean, I only do the things I actually want rewards for. That's as simple as it is for me. If I don't want the pterodon, so I don't do the diadem grind. You know, if I'm not like super excited for the cosmic mount for 500,000 points, so I haven't like really been focused on it, though I kind of want to do that one because I at least like the recolor a little bit better. I enjoy having things that a lot of other people don't have. And so there's a grind associated with it, then I'm more likely to do it. That's why I got the world-class troller title in the first place. It wasn't just because it was a great title. It was also because I knew a lot of people didn't have it. So, and also, I usually, when I'm grinding, I'm multitasking. Like nowadays, I have Osiris up on the other monitor. I'll be doing like Slayer or like AFK mining on like shooting stars. So like I always have two different things that are kind of like pulling attention from each other. And that helps me get any of those grinds done a lot more easily. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello, sir. Hi. Hope you're doing all right. I'm doing all right. You doing all right? You're doing all right. Quick question. What are some possibilities for the theme for the next Ultimate? Oh, it's almost certainly the Ascians. Hades, Warrior of Light. It's Shadowbringers MSQ. So I will be shocked if it's anything else. I keep in mind that if they decide to like go back and do like the Four Lords or the Warring Triad, I'd be perfectly okay with that. The only reason I don't predict things like that is because they've never done it. So if there's no precedent for me to assume it or guess it, then I'm not just going to say, oh, well, now is the time, like completely out of nowhere when there's no indication of it. So that's why Shadowbringers MSQ and including Warrior of Light and Hades is the easiest guess. And I think it's going to be an epic way to end in terms of Ultimates and in terms of Dawntrail. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Good day, Mr. Happy. Hi, I hope you're doing good. I am glad to hear it. Good. My question is about Dancer because you are likely more experienced in many ways. Wanted to check if I was crazy or not. While I have not been playing Dancer, I've been feeling more like I'm trying to avoid damage loss instead of trying to do as much damage as possible. If you mid 1-2 combo before burst, it will wear off by the time you finish. Same if you got procs under your 1s and 2s. Furthermore, Gauge sometimes feels like it's trolling me, where it suddenly will give me a bunch of Gauge. I mean, all Dancer is a bunch of prioritizing the most damage you're going to get above the damage that you could otherwise try to get. And just doing it in that order. That's really all Dancer is. So you're not losing damage. You're choosing the thing that will do more damage. And that is all that's actually happening there. So it's just a way of thinking about it that I don't think is in line with the way you like to think about it. I don't know why you feel that way, because it definitely doesn't feel that way to me. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hi, I have a question for you. Someone that has played the game for a long time can appropriately answer. I know recently you did all the Zeta relics. Kill me. Did you do any when it was current? Yeah, I did 2 of them when it was current. I did the daggers and I did the bow when it was current. The question, what was it like when it was current? Awful. Awful, awful, awful. Remember, we didn't have things like unsynced, so you had to go into dungeons with other players, and we didn't really have a PF yet, so you had to like queue into, like, if you needed like Cutter's Cry as like a ninja or something, you had no choice but to just queue into Cutter's Cry and wait for it. And then you also would be waiting, 3-4 hours for fates to potentially respawn. Even if you understood the system, it still took a really long time to get them to occur. And even nowadays, it could be really annoying to get them to occur. It was bad. And it was bad. A lot of the steps took longer too. Like, really, it's just the books. I think other than the books, I didn't really mind any of the steps on content, but it is really just the books that sucked then. Because they still suck now, you just can do them a lot faster. But, yeah, no, they were not good. They were not great. It did not. I don't miss it. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello. Hi. Been watching your content on and off for a long time. First time asking a question. Welcome. What would you say 14's biggest flaws are? IMO, one of them is X-Packs feel like they're too back. I mean, yeah, that's one of the worst parts about it. I've been playing since 4.2, and while I didn't really notice it was Shadowbringers, it was my first time experiencing a full 14 X-Pack with Endwalker and Dawntrail also just... how do I put it? they had the entirely wrong priorities with content releases in Endwalker and Dawntrail, especially towards the beginning. They're only now kind of like getting how badly it was like done and planned. That was by far the biggest. Those two expansions were the biggest offenders of this, but it has always been an issue, and you are absolutely correct. And yeah, that's definitely one of them. The other, I would say, is just kind of the UI needs updating and how the player interacts with it. I think that genuinely frustrates players. And I think that if I had to pick a third, it would be people needing to get through MSQ. I don't mind that, and I think it's actually better for the learning experience if players have to go through some MSQ before getting into the high-end stuff. But that being said, it's a lot to ask players to do or to pay to get past, I suppose. And then the other thing I would say is the pacing of the MSQ. I don't mind the pacing. Having done the MSQ on so many different characters, I think there's a lot of reason why it's paced the way that it is. But the fact that there's so much of it is often a bigger problem than the pacing of it. Unless you mean that by the pacing, the fact that you have to do so much. Even as far back there, there's time where you're spending an hour more just reading and there's nothing to break it up. Yeah, I guess there's that. But I mean, I guess when I think of a story, I've spent far more time than that doing similar-ish things. But yeah, it really depends, because the hour or more is usually spent on, like, you know, those really, really big moments followed up by the repercussions of those moments. So the only way to really adjust that is to put them closer to combat scenarios, and that works sometimes, but doesn't always work, in my opinion. So it's a matter of perspective for that one. All right, and that pretty much covers all the questions. There was one more hashtag question that was just like, what piece of fluff content have you looked forward to or appreciated? I mean, there's a lot of fluff content in 14, so I mean, ocean fishing I spent a good amount of time on, so I guess it kind of wins by default. And then there was one where somebody asked if there's interesting stories about the SteelSeries partnership. Not really. I mean, I tried to work with Razer, and they were near impossible to work with, and it's the only gaming products I had known. And then I was introduced to SteelSeries, and I've worked with them ever since. Like, it really was that easy, shockingly. But there's no real like specific story or anything to it. It just happened. And that's really all there is. And I think that was it for questions that I needed to take on this week. So that is going to be a wrap for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Be sure to ask your questions in the comment section of the video below. Thanks to Magic Spoon for sponsoring, and thanks to all of you for supporting on Patreon or through your channel memberships. With that, I will see all of you in the next video. Until then, take care.